Here we go. The last major update for the incredibly wonderful year of 2020. I put extra time into the game for this patch review since I haven't been able to play very much recently, and initially when I wrote the script, I had a lot of negative things to say about Vora. This has changed, however. She's good. Unlike Yugi, she's not the best at dueling, but I don't think that's where she was supposed to shine. She's an opportunist, and unlike the other flanks who just rush you down without mercy and beat you to a pulp, Vora looks for an opening before she strikes. I've seen a lot of complaints about her kit, and yes, I agree some things do need to be looked at. However, I think most of the complaints are coming from people that are trying to use her as a traditional flank, that being overwhelming the opponent before they can even react. Vora can't do that, at least not by herself. She plays very differently, being somewhat of a mix between a damage and flank champion, and the sooner you get that, the sooner you'll see she's not as bad as you may think. Vora aside, the rest of the update could be worse. Like every other patch review, I'll go over only the things I feel that are worth mentioning, which means there will most definitely be stuff I leave out on purpose. I do this because I want to encourage everyone to actually read the patch notes, which can be found in the description down below or in the main menu slideshow. You're welcome, by the way. As for now, a brief summary, or rather my initial impressions on Vora.
Know your fucking place, trash.
I'm just kidding. I put work into that, so I just wanted to drop it in the video. And besides, I already said Vora was good. That being said, she feels a bit underwhelming, which is fine. I mean, I'd rather have a new champion underperform than wreck everybody right out of the gate. When there's no need for an emergency balance patch right after a character comes out, you know things are heading in the right direction. Her vines are fun to use, her abilities can be chained together easily, something I've grown accustomed to since I usually play Leon and Xin, and she's very rewarding in the right hands, at least I think so. That being said, unless you use her double tendril legendary, you're going to have a hard time. Right now, the most effective way I found to play her was to use Relentless Presence, keep your distance, build up your charges, and when you see an opening, dive balls deep into the enemy's asshole. Having more than one vine at your disposal makes you a very mobile character, and lets you play mind games when you aren't using it to make an escape. And I think that's what she excels in. Her kit is relatively simple and easy to grasp, but to make the most of it, you need to play mind games and have a high IQ like Rick and Morty fans. She's not perfect, no champion is, and like the other characters, she will receive changes at some point. What those changes will be are anyone's guess. But if I were to place a bet, if I were to put money on it, I'd say her tendril cooldown might be lowered just a bit, or her damage and rate of fire may get a slight buff. At least one or the other of those last two, at the very least. As it is right now, even with Cauterize 3, her primary fire damage feels a bit weak, and her attacks a bit sluggish. I guess you could say it's a fair trade-off for having a reveal on every successful hit, but even so, I still support the idea that flanks are supposed to win in a one-on-one situation. Being honest here, she can 1v1, but only if no one else is around, your opponent is blind, their healer disconnected, and their mouse is broken. I was able to hold my own most of the time, but maybe all of these things happened when I was playing. Your experience may vary. Maybe you'll be the one to crash. I'll go into more detail about her and her kit in the upcoming champion review, like I always do. I always make a second video when a champion comes out about them specifically, so if you're interested in seeing that, make sure you subscribe and please hit the bell icon. Ever since I stopped uploading frequently, YouTube has pushed my content aside. That's what happens when you take breaks and you don't upload as much as you used to. A lot of people tell me that they don't even see when I upload a new video, but if you have the bell enabled, you won't miss a thing. Also, if you don't ring the bell, your mother will die in her sleep tonight. And while you make sure that curse doesn't fall upon you, let's look at the Arcane Pact Battle Pass. Now, the splash arts? They are pretty good. There's no discrepancy between them and the models, and they don't have alien faces, so that's a plus in my book. Well done, Hi-Rez. Well done. However, I have yet to see you top Poofy Afro IO's splash art. Even though the splash art can't match this Pablo Picasso tier artwork, what you've provided is acceptable for now. But I expect to see more of this, and less of this in the future. As for the skins themselves, well, what am I supposed to say? I'm not too fond of them. Vivian's alright for 2 reasons, I'll let you guess what those are. But other than that, they're not forcing my wallet open, I'm not throwing my credit card at the screen. I don't play Vivian, she's for brain-dead retards. I don't play Tyra because if I wanted to play Counter-Strike, I'd just go play Counter-Strike. I do play Xin, but I find elves boring and the color purple disgusting. The recolor is much better in my opinion. And as for Bomb King, well, I mean, just look at him. It's nightmare fuel. In the name of heaven and hell, dragons and dildos, by the 9 divine, what in the ever-living skibbity-bibbity-diddly-doodly fuckaroony is that? This skin makes me uncomfortable. I'm getting nervous with this being on my screen. Grumpy Bomb looks like he's had enough of this shit, and so have I. Let's move on. But before we do, I just want to say, if I see you use this skin in-game and you're on the other team, I will bully you. Frozen Guard got a visual update, and it looks a teensy bit different. Of course, I'm being sarcastic here. I just have to, make that clear because, we have the brightest people leaving YouTube comments every once in a while. I have to make that clear, I'm not as disappointed with this one as I was with the Magistrate Archive quote-unquote update, so at least that's something. Regardless, I still prefer the old map over this one. Not because I'm trying to be a contrarian here and say new thing bad, old thing good like I normally do, but because there's so much visual clutter on the map now. My eyesight isn't the best, but at least with the old version I could see what's going on. I think the old plasticky, simple look of the environments not only gave Paladins some charm, but made it easier to actually see what was happening. Don't get me wrong, the map looks gorgeous. It's highly detailed and certainly a lot of effort was put into it, but the gold trim decorations everywhere just draw so much attention away from the characters near the control point and anywhere else around it, really. It's just very hard to follow them. And when it comes to characters with revealing abilities like Strix, Vora, and Cassie's ultimate, following the enemy silhouettes behind the walls with the gold trim and all this other shit, it's a lot harder to do. Again, because of the gold trim. I think if they got rid of the gold trim or just toned it down a bit, they made it a little less bright, if they turned down the saturation a little bit, I think it would look a lot better. As for how the map plays, well, it basically plays the same. There wasn't really any update to the layout. It was never classified as a rework, just a visual update. But like with any map Hi-Rez touches, invisible walls and more are to be found. 2 spots in particular that bug the shit out of me are here, outside the spawn right before you go through the tunnel, and here, going into the tunnel from the center point. The first spot isn't in need of an emergency fix, it's just kind of annoying to get stuck on a plant, but the other one, whoo boy, check this out. When you walk into the tunnel from the control point side, you're blocked by an invisible barrier of some sort, and because the map is symmetrical and copy pasting assets saves time, it happens to be on the other side too. The plant blocking your movement, I could see them missing that, but this? How was this not noticed in playtesting? This is one of the only 2 alternative paths each team could take. How did this slip through? Do they not playtest their maps? Was this caught during playtesting and the fix had to be pushed off for the next update? This is really bad. It's one thing to have invisible walls that hinder your vertical movement or a low skybox that stops flyers from flying about, but it's another for an invisible barrier to stop you on ground level when it clearly shouldn't. This needs a fix immediately, even more so since Frozen Guard was given a higher priority over other maps, like every other new or updated map they come out with. I'd flip my shit if I died to this in competitive. On a brighter note, after what seemed to be 10,000 years in the making, an undo button was added to the item store. Now, if you accidentally purchased the wrong item at the start of the match or during a match, like an idiot, you no longer want to kill yourself. At least, not as quickly. Keep in mind, you can't undo a purchase once you close the shop menu. So if you buy Veteran, close the shop, and realize you bought Veteran, you can't go back and undo it. The item shop must stay open for it to work, and even then for me, it only worked half the time. I also didn't even realize the button was there until halfway through one of my streams. I hope this is just a placeholder icon, because if it's not, shame on you, Hi-Rez. The rest of the UI receives some small updates as well, most notably the quest page, complete with crystals because scrolls just didn't cut it anymore for some reason, and uneven placement of text on top of them. I know it's because of how the crystals were made, but come on, it's just like the lanterns in Bazaar above the spawn doors. Forever uneven and will forever bother me. Comic-Con and other small UI elements have gotten a change as well, but you know what really takes the cake? This little thing popping up when you're marked by Corvus. I don't know why it took so long to add something that should have been added upon release, but I'm grateful it's here. Seriously though, it's common sense. How was this not added until now? I understand things take time to implement, but this is something that should have been considered when the champion was being made, especially when you consider the fact that his kit basically revolves around other players being marked. That's a very integral part of his kit. That is his kit, and other players never knew that they were marked unless there was a little thing that showed a little Corvus face right there. Yeah. Oh, look. What am I doing? Like, zoink, Scoob. Corvo put his mark on me. But seriously, it's common sense. I'd be lying if I said this was my favorite part of the UI update, though. What really made my day is seeing the new Siege training mode description. For what seemed like an eternity, it was over-explained and it bugged the ever-living shit out of me. The other two training modes have simple descriptions like practice team deathmatch versus AI opponents. But when it came to Siege training, we got a fucking paragraph. And the first line of the old description wasn't even consistent with the other two. It's also the only description out of the three that lets you know other human players may play with you on your team, as if it's implying human players won't be on your team in the other two. This was actually a personal request of mine. Thanks for listening, Nico. Some holiday avatars were added, like BV and the extremely religious Grover. Growing up, I knew a guy that celebrated both Christmas and Hanukkah, and I thought, man, what a lucky fuck. I could only imagine how many presents he would get. But Grover? This fucker celebrates Kwanzaa too? Holy shit. His holiday season must be busy. I wonder how he even has time to fight anymore. Quickly going over the highlights of the balance this patch, here's what has changed. Corvus's lifesteal and healing output have decreased, thank God. He's gonna stick around, but I think he's been moved out of the insta-lock category now. We'll see though, we'll see. A lot of people said the same thing about Io, but she's still picked quite a bit. Grok's totems received some placement improvements. Some people said it feels worse. I think it feels the same. I haven't played Grok in a while, so I can't really speak about that too much. Grover's axe finally deals higher damage to deployables and shields when thrown at further distances. You know, I thought the lack of damage scaling was a bug, but I guess not. This is good news for Grover players though, a very nice buff in my opinion. Something I've been looking forward to for a very long time. Inara's overall sustain took a hit. This doesn't mean she's going to be useless, but just a bit less annoying to deal with. Lex can finally slide in mid-air. I don't know why he wasn't able to do this before. A buff, a straight buff, no questions asked. The only bad thing about it is you can kill yourself by sliding in air. At least with Leon, you can change the direction in which you want to slide, and Lex is just stuck going forward. That, I feel, has to be changed, but I don't know if they're gonna do that. Probably not. Amani got a whole bunch of different changes to her kit. Fire rate changed, damage changed. There's just so much that went on with Amani. I'm actually shocked. They're still trying to make her work, which is funny because I think they should really fix her before they actually try to fix the kit. So many times I see people trying to play Amani and they just can't because they get stuck in an attack animation and nothing comes out of her hands. They really gotta look into that. And lastly, Vivian got fucked in her large badunkadunk, where both her abilities and cards took a nice pounding. I myself still don't think she should be given a permanent speed boost through a card though, but reducing the movement speed of one step ahead from 30% to 20% is one step ahead in the right direction. I'm terrible. But yeah, there was no reason why Vivian should have been able to move faster than somebody with Nimble 3 right from the start of the match. Absolutely no reason for it. 20% in my opinion is still too much, but I'll take what I can get for now. That's it for the video. The next one coming will be about Vora. I'm gonna do the Vora champion review, so if you're interested in seeing that, please again make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. And I want to know, what do you guys think of the updates so far? Better yet, how do you feel about Paladins during 2020 as a whole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below, and as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.